What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 27 of the Downtown Browntown podcast. I'm your host, Downtown Brown. Today, we are going to discuss the huge game one win over the Miami Heat yesterday. Bucks taking that one 109-107 in overtime. Chris Middleton hitting a game-winning shot. It was an incredible game. We'll just go ahead and get right into it. Before we start, just again want to remind you, if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you can stay up to date on all my future content as it is posted. And make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. Instagram, I'm at downtown_brown33, and Twitter, I'm at downtown_brown, all lowercase there. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Bucks picking up a huge game one win in Milwaukee yesterday. I was there. It was electric. The crowd was rocking. It felt like a playoff atmosphere. I can't even imagine being at a packed arena, sold out, basically 2 times the capacity that we had yesterday afternoon. But it really felt loud in there. The crowd was heard. They made an impact on the game, and what an incredible game it was. Just want to start by saying couldn't be happier for Chris Middleton to make that game-winning shot. I saw a pretty cool stat that in the final 10 seconds of fourth quarter or overtime, in terms of field goal percentage for game tying or go-ahead field goals, Chris Middleton is tied for the lead, 3 for 6, 50% on those shots, tied with the likes of Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, and Robert Horry. So just all the Chris Middleton haters out there, you've got to be hiding at this point. I mean, he played an outstanding game, I thought. I mean, granted, he didn't shoot extremely well from 3, but who did on the Bucks? No one. So can't knock Chris Middleton for that. And he made some clutch shots, really difficult shots, and obviously the biggest shot of the game to give the Bucks the game one win, which was just crucial for them. Really didn't want to go down 1-0 in this series, losing home court advantage to the Miami Heat, who bounced the Bucks in 5 in the bubble last year. So again, just what an unbelievable shot by Chris. I mean, he had a hand right in his face. Duncan Robinson played pretty well on D on that possession, and Chris just knocked it down. Again, huge play, and just couldn't be happier for Chris. And hopefully that silences all the Chris Middleton haters out there. So let's get into the game a little bit. So clearly it's pretty crazy that the Bucks won this game, to be honest, because we shot awful from pretty much like all different perspectives. Field goal, 43.8%. Three-pointers, 16%. 5 for 31 from 3. That is awful. I mean, to win a game shooting that poorly from 3 in itself is crazy in today's NBA. It really is. Miami shot 40% from 3. And that's good. You know, everyone always has that metric of oh, if you shoot 40% from 3, that's good. That's what you want from an individual player perspective and even from an overall team perspective. So Miami making 23s, also 20 for 50. I mean, man, I did not expect them to shoot that many threes, but they shot it really, really well from 3. Duncan Robinson clearly was a big factor in that. But again, just in the fact that the Bucks were 5 for 31 from 3 and they won that game is out of this world. And to make it even crazier, the Bucks shot 20 for 33 from the free throw line, missing huge free throws late in the fourth quarter and overtime. Giannis missed some, Brook Lopez, Drew Holiday, even Chris Middleton missed the one we got that flagrant foul early in overtime. I mean, if we make a couple of those free throws, this is a different game. We probably win it in regulation. If not, we definitely had it in overtime. I know it's easier to say that in hindsight, but, things could have been different if we would have made those free throws. But still, if we make one of those free throws, we're probably going to win that game in regulation. So, it's crazy. 60% from 3 is not going to get it done. Sorry, from the free throw line, not going to get it done. 20 for 33. That is not good. Especially, Giannis, 6 for 13 from the free throw line, missing key ones in the fourth quarter and overtime. Like I said, the only really consistent one from the free throw line were, Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton. Brook, 7 for 8 from the free throw line, missing a huge one towards the end of that game. I pretty sure it was in overtime. Yep, I remember that. And then Chris Middleton missing that one with the flagrant foul, 4 for 6 from the free throw line. I mean, he should be better than that, to be honest, but still, that's not terrible. Jrue Holiday, 2 for 4 from the free throw line, missing both in key situations. I mean, that's just not going to get it done. And it's very concerning. It's one of the things that I mentioned as a key to the series is the Bucks got to make their free throws, especially late in the game, to be able to beat this Miami Heat team. And like I said, the fact that we won this game, shooting awful from 3-point line, shooting awful from the free throw line, and Miami shooting 40% from three, 79% from the free throw line, 15 for 19, very solid. I mean, I'd take that any day if that was the Bucks percentage. It's not going to get it done. I mean, what the Bucks did, you think it's not going to get it done, but it did somehow, some way in overtime, and it was a crazy game. But let's get into a little more of the specifics here, dive into what I saw and some things that could be important. Things to keep in mind for the rest of the series and game 2 on Monday night. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So Miami got off to a quick start in the game. Duncan Robinson hitting 3 3-pointers. And a big reason for that is because the Bucks were playing their traditional drop coverage defense, where I'll try and explain it my best way. I've explained it in prior episodes, but I want to make sure you guys understand it now because it's definitely something to keep an eye on. So we saw a lot of the time that Bam Adebayo would screen because Brook Lopez is guarding Bam. So Bam would screen Duncan Robinson if he had the ball or he was running, if he was running at the top of the 3-point line, he would screen whoever was guarding Duncan, which was Chris Middleton. And then by doing that, Brook Lopez playing the drop coverage defense, he'd be sitting in the paint trying to prevent a basket at the rim. But we all know that Duncan Robinson's trying to shoot that 3-pointer. So by Brook sagging into the paint, basically, if Chris Middleton doesn't get off that screen well, Duncan Robinson's going to get a wide open 3-pointer. And we saw that a lot in this game. And it's very concerning. I don't quite understand it. I mean, clearly that's the Heat's game plan right away in that game was to get Duncan Robinson in those pick and roll situations where Bam is screening on Chris Middleton and Brook is just going to drop and Bam, he's going to shoot a wide open 3-pointer. Actually, Duncan, I said Bam just because, he's shooting the ball. I didn't mean to do that. But anyways, so clearly that was something that impacted the game right away. He got off to a quick start, and it was very concerning to me. Once I saw that the Bucks are playing that drop coverage consistently, I was calling for Brook Lopez to come out of the game and for us to put PJ Tucker in so we could switch 1 through 5 because we can't be giving them those 3-point opportunities like that. We saw them do the same thing with the likes of a Tyler Hero, Goran Dragic, and Hero did not shoot well, but Goran Dragic 5 for 10 from 3. You can't be giving those guys opportunities to get wide open threes. The Heat team is just a great team, and they really came to play in this game. And clearly, they just match up really well with the Bucks. So we can't be giving them these opportunities to make these wide open 3-pointers, specifically a sniper, which Duncan Robinson is. So again, that was something that I noticed right away in the game, and it was very concerning to me. Clearly, Eric Spoelstra knows how to attack this Bucks team, specifically in that high screen and roll game with Bam Adebayo and Duncan Robinson. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on game 2. Do the Bucks adjust to that a little bit? Or basically what the Bucks are doing right now is that they're trusting that their guys are going to get through those screens. And it's a very risky proposition. I think Chris Middleton did a pretty damn good job at it. There was plenty of times, especially in the second half, really after that onslaught that Duncan Robinson had in the first quarter of hitting 3 threes early in the game, Chris Middleton did a pretty good job of getting through those screens. But again, it's tough. That's not something you can rely on game in and game out. Bam Adebayo is a great screener. He's just a great player in general. He's a big dude. And for Chris to have to get through those screens consistently is just very risky. And you don't want to be giving him those opportunities. So I'm really curious to see what Coach Bud does in game 2. Is he going to make adjustments or what's that going to look like? I honestly still think that we're going to play that drop coverage D and hope that Chris can get through those screens. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Eric Spoelstra throw a little wrinkle in that and maybe try a little something different. Again, Spoelstra is a great coach who adjusts in games after games, coming into the next game. And we know that Coach Bud hasn't done that in the past. Obviously, he's done it a little more this year, but in the playoffs, we don't really know. So again, going to be something to keep an eye on for game 2, and going to be really important coming into game 2 and really for the rest of the series to see what Coach Bud does. What I think he's going to do is he's going to stick with that same plan in game 1, but maybe have a shorter leash on Brook Lopez, bring PJ Tucker in earlier, switch 1 through 5. Even Bobby Portis can be utilized in those 1 through 5 switching lineups as well. They were playing drop coverage with him in game 1 too, which was a little surprising to me. But again, I think that we're probably going to stick with that same plan, which I don't love, because giving Duncan Robinson open threes is just not what you want to do. But again, we'll see what happens with Bud, and I really hope that he makes some adjustments coming into that game, because it's very worrisome to me to give those wide open 3-pointers to Duncan Robinson. And you could just tell, like, the Heat did it the first play in the game. That was their plan right away. So clearly that's their game plan, and it worked for a lot of the time. So again, it's just going to be something to keep an eye on for sure. Duncan Robinson played really well in this game, 7 for 13 from 3, 24 points. I thought he played pretty good defense on Chris Middleton as well. I mean, granted, he's not the most athletic player in the world, but still, I thought he played pretty well throughout the whole game, clearly on the offensive end. So that's a guy they want to get going. He's clearly their best 3-point shooter. Other than that, I mean, in their starting lineup, they don't have a lot of great 3-point shooters. Jimmy Butler, 2 for 9 from 3. I mean, Kendrick Nunn is pretty good 3-point shooter. He was 2 for 6 in the game, so that's not great. Trevor Ariza was 2 for 6 as well. Hit one really, really big 3-pointer in overtime. But again, Duncan is their guy. He's their sniper, and they want to get him going, because if he's going, they're a hard team to beat. So again, that's going to be something to keep an eye on for game 2. And just kind of going through some of the rest of the game here. Something that we saw pretty much consistently through the game was that Jimmy Butler was guarding Giannis, and he did a pretty good job of it. Giannis, 10 for 27 from the field, 26 points, 18 rebounds, which is insane, 5 assists, 3 steals. Again, Jimmy Butler did a pretty good job. They were forcing Giannis into a lot of tough shots. I didn't love our offensive game plan. We did a lot of just Giannis dribbling the ball at the top of the key and him trying to create and make shots for himself. And it just wasn't working. I mean, he shot inefficiently from the field. I thought we should have been moving the ball around more, getting other guys involved, having Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton run the offense, getting Giannis off the ball more, getting him involved in pick and roll situations where he's the screener, because good luck guarding that when he's coming off a pick and roll. I mean, it's virtually unstoppable. Granted, I mean, the Heat have good defensive personnel against the Bucks and have a great coach in Spoelstra who draws up good game plans. But again, we got to utilize our big 3 in the best way possible. And I don't think we did that in game 1. And I just really don't understand it. Again, it felt like a lot of the bubble last year. We kind of just came out with the same offensive mindset, a lot of ISO ball. Chris Middleton played fantastic in the game, 27 points, the leader for the Bucks, 10 for 22 from the field, 3 for 9 from 3, not great. But again, he made a lot of tough shots, and that's just something that's hard to rely on game in and game out. I mean, we know the inconsistencies of Chris Middleton. Again, I'm not ripping on him at all. I've been a Chris fan for years and years here, and definitely haven't been one of the haters, but we all know that he has been inconsistent throughout his career as a Buck, even in his all-star days. So it's just not something you can really rely on game in and game out. I don't really love the Bucks game plan from an offensive perspective. I do like, especially later in the game, how we got Brook Lopez involved more in the post. I mean, clearly we saw in that last regular season game against Miami that Brook Lopez was 9 for 10 from the field, shooting 0 3-pointers, and he just dominated in the paint. Now, they didn't have Jimmy Butler, and it wasn't a playoff game. I mean, we all saw the intensity of that game yesterday, that it was playoffs. Every team, like both teams were playing their ass off on defense and offense. And playoffs is a completely different game. So clearly it's hard to take much from that regular season game. But again, the Heat are starting Bam Adebayo at the 5. We have a really big lineup with Giannis and Brook in there. So it's going to be hard for them to control Brook Lopez in the paint, and he's a great finisher in the paint. So again, I really like how we saw that towards the end of the game, but I think we need to go to that a little more earlier in the game, especially when we were just really struggling to score. I mean, it was a low scoring game in general. 109, 107 for an overtime game is ridiculously low scoring. That's even low scoring for a normal regulation game that doesn't go into overtime. I know playoffs, there's a little more emphasis on defense, and these teams are both very good defensive teams, but still the Bucks really struggled to score throughout this game. Clearly we saw that from the box score. Like I said, 44% from the field, not great. 16% from three, awful. So again, in a game where the Bucks are struggling to get points, I think they need to utilize Brook Lopez more in the paint, especially early on. So that's going to be something I'm going to look out for in game 2. And let's stick with the offensive side of the ball here. Let's go to Jrue Holiday next. I thought that he played pretty well, especially on defense. But his box score came in really nicely. 20 points, 9 for 18 from the field, 11 boards, 3 assists and 3 steals. I thought he got credited with the block there at the end on Jimmy Butler, but maybe he didn't end up blocking it. Or maybe they just didn't give it a block, but it looked like he got a piece of that ball. But anywho, Jrue Holiday, clearly he played well in this game. His impact was clearly noticed, specifically late in the game when he got that steal in overtime. I think he had another steal towards the end of regulation, and his defense was elite, as it always is. And if we didn't have Jrue Holiday in that game, we're not winning that game. I'm a firm believer in that. But again, from an offensive perspective, I thought that he played pretty well. 0 for 5 from 3, just didn't have it from the 3-point line. And we've seen that from Jrue Holiday throughout the regular season. He's kind of been a roller coaster in terms of his shooting. I know he shot a career best from 3, just below 40%. But again, clearly there's been games where he's really struggled from the 3-point line, and that was one of them in game 1. Other than that, I mean, 50% from the field is great. I think he needs to get a little more utilized on the offensive end. Again, him running the offense more, him creating for other guys, him trying to get his own shot even. Clearly Jrue Holiday is a huge upgrade over Eric Bledsoe from an offensive perspective, and we need to utilize that upgrade. And I think it took us a little too long to get to that point. And again, that's just one of those things that I think we need to do a better job of is just to get the ball in Jrue Holiday's hands more and let him create for himself and for his teammates, and not play as much of the offense where Giannis is just on, trying to make plays and trying to beat that wall and forcing up tough shots, because clearly he was not making them. I mean, we've seen him do it against other teams, but again, that defensive scheme that Miami runs makes it a lot tougher for Giannis to dominate in the paint. So again, I think we need to utilize a little bit more of Jrue Holiday in terms of running the offense. So overall, pretty solid game from Jrue. Can't wait to see what he does in game 2. We'll go to Dante next. 37 minutes for Dante. 1 for 5 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3 with 3 points, 10 boards, 4 assists, a steal, and a block. Obviously, from an offensive perspective, not a good game from Dante whatsoever. He had some key mishaps towards the end of that game. I mean, he got blocked on the 3-pointer by Jimmy Butler, and he had another play where he put up a bad shot. And it was ugly. But again, I thought Dante played pretty well on the defensive end. He got exposed at times by Jimmy Butler, but again, that's a tough matchup for him. Jimmy Butler's got a lot of strength over Dante, and he's a really good player at just backing guys down and making tough layups. We saw that when he tied up the game in regulation to force overtime. But again, a lot of minutes for Dante, 37, just tough offensive game for him. I mean, he made some nice plays on the defensive end, getting some steals and always active on the rebounding game. But for a guy getting 37 minutes, we need more offensive production from him. So again, I don't love the game from Dante there, and we really need him to step up in the series for him to make an impact. So let's go to the bench next. Before we get to that, though, we'll just go to the overall minutes for the starters. Giannis 45 minutes, Middleton 45 minutes, Drew 42, Dante 37, and Brook 36. I love to see that the starters and the big three are getting over 40 minutes now. Obviously, overtime impacted that. I think all of the starters played all of overtime. So again, Chris and Giannis were at 40 minutes in regulation, factoring that in, and Drew was at 37. So I'm good with that. I would obviously prefer Drew to be closer to the 40-minute mark than 37, but I like that Bud made that adjustment, because last year in the bubble, we saw that he was still giving the starters, or our big three at that time, and probably Giannis, Middleton, and Bledsoe like 35 to 36 minutes a game, which just can't do that. You got to play your best players 40 minutes a game in these playoff games when they're tight. And this game was tight throughout the entire game. I mean, I think the Bucks' biggest lead was 8 points when Chris Middleton hit a 3-pointer early on in the third quarter. We saw that lead get erased pretty quickly, and the Heat took a 1-point lead shortly after that. But again, I really like the adjustment Coach Bud made to get the starters more minutes. Really like to see that. So now let's go to the bench. I know that was a big topic of conversation. Who's going to be in the playoff rotation from a bench perspective? So let's do the breakdown here. PJ Tucker, 18 minutes. Bobby Portis, 17. Bryn Forbes, 14. And Pat Connaughton. Oh, this is going to be a big debate. Pat Connaughton getting 10 minutes in game 1 against the Miami Heat. We saw no minutes from Jeff Teague. Wara, no minutes, and any of the other guys on the bench weren't in consideration, with the likes of a Sam Merrill, Diakite, Axel Tupan. Thanasis is out for a couple weeks. He got injured in that last regular season game, so no Thanasis for a little bit here. But I don't think it's all that surprising from a bench perspective. I thought Pat Connaughton would get some minutes. I didn't know about Jeff Teague, though. He was the one I was really thinking about. I was more on the side of he probably isn't getting playoff minutes, because towards the end of the regular season, when Bud was going with a more playoff style rotation, playing 9 deep, Jeff Teague was not in that rotation. So I'm not super surprised by it. And quite frankly, I'm okay with it. So again, PJ Tucker, 18 minutes. We'll start with him. 0 points. Only took 1 shot, missed his corner 3, 2 boards, and that was it for him. But he played outstanding on-ball defense. I saw a really cool stat. When PJ Tucker was the primary defender, when guys took a shot, they were 1 for 10 from the field. I mean, that is absolutely outstanding. And Jimmy Butler, 0 for 6 from the field when guarded by PJ Tucker. I mean, that is what we got him for, is his defense. And he clearly showed out from that perspective. And I'd like to see PJ Tucker getting more minutes. 25 would be great. I mean, his defense is just so valuable for this team, and his ability to get put in those lineups where Giannis can be at the 5 and we switch 1 through 5, especially against this Miami team who usually plays small. So again, I think PJ Tucker needs to be utilized more in these games in the playoffs here. He still continues to get an awful whistle from the refs. I mean, everyone got an awful whistle from the refs in this game from a Bucks perspective. I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. I yelled enough at the game last night or yesterday afternoon. Haven't screamed that much in quite some time, because the refs were an absolute joke, and it really felt like they wanted Miami to win that game. I'm not a conspiracy guy in terms of, NBA being rigged or anything like that. Definitely not that kind of guy. But again, it just really felt like they wanted the Heat to win that game. It was just a joke. I'm not going to get down all of that. I complained about it enough at the game yesterday. But again, PJ Tucker has just not gotten a good whistle at all since he joined the Bucks. We saw it specifically in those games against Brooklyn when he was guarding Kevin Durant. I mean, he's a physical defender, and he likes to bang bodies and try and reach and get the ball. But again, I think that he got a terrible whistle, and it was obviously a concerning thing. He had 3 quick fouls in the game. Obviously, he was good after that. But again, I think we need to utilize PJ Tucker more, and the fact that guys were 1 for 10 from the field when PJ Tucker was the primary defender. can't get any better than that. I mean, it is just absolutely fantastic. And I really hope he gets more minutes in game 2 and the rest of the playoffs. So let's go to Bobby Portis next. 17 minutes, finished with 8 points, 4 for 6 from the field, 4 boards, and 1 steal. I really like what I saw from Bobby Portis. Again, he's just a guy that you can get the ball and he's going to get you a bucket. Bobby Buckets. That's who he is. That's what he does. And he was really key for the Bucks in the first half of that game when we were struggling to score. And I really like what I saw from Bobby. I thought he played pretty well on defense as well. Again, I was a little surprised that we played that drop coverage with Bobby Portis. I think he can be utilized in those switching lineups. But again, I really like what I saw from Bobby, and the minutes I think are okay for him. You know, right around that 20 minutes per game mark, I think is good for Bobby. And I think he played a great game, and I expect him to be even a bigger impact throughout the rest of the series. I think he's going to try and get more involved on offense and create shots for himself, because I mean, that guy can just score at will. So overall, Bobby Portis played pretty well in the game, and I'm excited to see what he does in the rest of the series. We'll go Bryn Forbes next. 14 minutes, 5 points, 2 for 5 from the field, and 0 for 3 from 3. Not a big impact from Bryn Forbes. It didn't shoot extremely well from 3, obviously, 0 for 3. But still 2 for 5 from the field. Not too bad. I mean, in only 14 minutes, didn't make much of an impact in the game. I thought it was pretty interesting, though, that Bryn Forbes was guarding Jimmy Butler at a lot of the times during the game. I mean, there were times where he got switched onto him, but I think that's a little concerning. I mean, I don't want Bryn Forbes guarding Jimmy Butler consistently. I mean, I think Bryn Forbes did pretty well on him in that game, actually. Like, he didn't give up many points from Butler, but still, I think that's something that Butler is going to take advantage of. And clearly, when Bryn Forbes was in the game, they were going at him on the defensive side, or for them on the offensive side. They were getting Bryn Forbes on the ball and making him beat them on defense. And I think he did okay at that. But again, that's something that Spoelstra is going to do. He's going to take advantage of every little deficiency that the Bucks have from a roster perspective. And clearly he thinks that Bryn Forbes' defense is nothing to be excited about, and he's going to go after him. And clearly he did. So I think that could marginalize Bryn Forbes a little bit in this playoff series. So I'm really curious to see what he does going forward. Again, I think it's a little easier to marginalize him for the Bucks if he's not shooting well like he did in game 1. But if he's on fire from 3, you got to play the guy. I mean, clearly we've seen him impact games throughout this whole regular season, and I think he's going to have some big games in the playoffs. So again, not much from Bryn Forbes there, but just keep in mind that they went after him on the offensive end, and I'm curious to see what happens in game 2. We'll end with Pat Connaughton getting 10 minutes, 2 points, 1 for 2 from the field, 4 boards, and an assist. I thought Pat played pretty well. I mean, again, only 10 minutes, not much to look at here, but, he had a really nice pump fake drive and then dished it to Jrue Holiday in the paint to get a bucket. I think that was early on in the fourth quarter. And, Pat was active on the rebounding game, and I thought he played respectable on defense. So I'm fine with Pat Connaughton getting 10 minutes a game in this series. I think that he's not going to kill you out there, and he's not a guy that the Heat really went after that much on defense. I mean, again, Butler was going at him a couple times on the offensive end, and Pat Connaughton held his own for the most part. But again, him getting 10 minutes a game in the playoffs, specifically in this series, I mean, once we get further in the playoffs, if that happens, I'm not sure if I want to see those minutes from Pat. But again, I thought he played pretty well for the short time that he got, and there's nothing really concerning that I saw from him. So just a pretty normal Pat Connaughton game, and I expect him to get similar minutes in this series throughout. So that's really what I saw for the most part on the offensive end. Let's go to the defensive end for the Bucks a little bit. I thought that they played extremely well on defense. Again, the refs did them absolutely no favors. It was just ridiculous. It was the worst officiating I've probably ever seen. And I really hope that doesn't continue throughout the series. Otherwise, it's going to be a really hard one for the Bucks to win, to be quite honest with you. But again, I thought the Bucks played pretty well on defense. From an on-ball perspective, we were making it tough for Miami. They made some tough shots. Again, the drop coverage D giving them those open threes is obviously a big concern for me. But overall, I thought the Bucks played really well on the defensive end. Drew Holiday making huge plays. Giannis was active on the defensive end. I thought Chris Middleton did a great job on Duncan Robinson, especially getting through those screens, like I mentioned earlier on in the episode. And PJ Tucker was great on defense. And overall, I really liked what I saw from the Bucks on the defensive end. They made it hard for Miami, specifically Jimmy Butler. I mean, Jimmy Butler had a pretty bad game. 17 points, 4 for 22 from the field, 2 for 9 from three. A lot of his points came from the free throw line, 7 for 10. A lot of gifted free points there because the refs were just screwing the Bucks over. But again, I really like what I saw from the Bucks on the defensive end for the most part, and I'm really curious to see how they come out in game 2. So that's pretty much all I've got from the game. Again, I still can't believe that we won that game, given how poorly we shot from free throw line and from three, and the refs just clearly being on the Heat side. It pretty much everything was going against the Bucks in this game, but they still pulled through, and I think that bodes really well for the Bucks in this series. If they were able to win that game when nothing was going for them, I really like their chances to get out of the series with a win and advance to the second round. So just a battle. I mean, what a great playoff game. First playoff game back in Fiserv Forum since 2019, and the crowd was awesome. I love being there. I will be there tomorrow night for game 2 as well. Cannot wait for that. And hopefully the crowd's going to be just as good as it was on Saturday afternoon. And again, I'm really curious to see how the Bucks come out on the defensive end with that drop coverage and see if they have a short leash on Brook Lopez. So that's really what I'm going to keep an eye on game 2. And after game 2, I will be doing another episode to go over the game. So if you guys enjoyed this one, be sure to check in and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss when my game 2 recap episode is posted. Should be either Monday night or sometime before game 3. I know game 3 will be on Thursday, so I'll definitely get that episode out before game 3. So again, thanks again for watching, and what a huge win for the Bucks. 1-0 in the series, 3 more to go. It's going to be a battle, and I can't wait to see how it plays out. So thanks again, guys, and go Bucks.